10 days, no weekend, no Sunday, just one long, unbroken march to your next day off. That's exactly what happened to millions of people, almost overnight. A government erased their week and replaced it with something else entirely. What if your week had 10 days instead of 7? Let's set the rules first. We're not just adding 3 days for fun. We're rebuilding the entire structure of time the way real governments have actually tried to. Same 24-hour days, same 365-day year. But the week itself, stretched from 7 units to 10. Here's what would actually happen to your body, your calendar, and your sense of time itself. Let's start with a question you've probably never asked. Why 7 in the first place? It isn't a law of physics. There's no natural cycle that produces exactly 7 days. The moon doesn't do it. The sun doesn't do it, so where did it come from? The answer traces back roughly 4,000 years to ancient Babylon. Babylonian astronomers tracked 7 moving objects in the night sky: the sun, the moon, and 5 visible planets: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. 7 lights that moved differently from the fixed stars. 7 became sacred, 7 became structural, and that number quietly rode along through Judaism, then Christianity, then the Roman Empire, until it became baked into nearly every calendar on Earth. But here's the twist. 7 was never guaranteed to win. Sociologist Eviatar Zerubbabel, who wrote an entire book tracing the history of the week, documented that other civilizations experimented with completely different rhythms. The ancient Egyptians used a 10-day week called a decan. Some societies tried market cycles of 4 or 5 days, timed around trading days instead of religion or astronomy. The 7-day week isn't natural law. It's a cultural survivor. And that raises the real question. What happens if a 10-day version ever gets a real shot? We don't have to imagine. It already happened, twice. Stage 1, France, 1793. In the chaos after the French Revolution, French leaders wanted to strip away anything tied to the old monarchy and the Catholic Church, including the 7-day week itself, because Sunday was a religious day of rest. So they invented the French Republican calendar. 12 months, each split into 3 10-day weeks called decades. Every 10th day, called decady, became the new day of rest. Sounds efficient on paper, right? Fewer rest days, more consecutive work days. But almost immediately, something started to break. Workers who were used to resting every 7th day were now grinding through 9 straight work days before a single break. Farmers, laborers, and shopkeepers pushed back. Historians studying the period note that productivity and morale actually declined, not improved. The math looked cleaner. The human body disagreed. By 1805, barely 12 years later, Napoleon scrapped the whole system and brought back the 7-day week. An entire national experiment in redesigning time collapsed under the weight of exhausted, frustrated citizens. That's stage 1. But it gets more extreme. Stage 2, the Soviet Union, 1929. Joseph Stalin's government wanted something even bolder than France ever tried. Not just a longer week, but a moving one. It was called the Neprarivka, the continuous work week. Instead of everyone resting on the same day, the entire population was split into 5 groups, each assigned a different color, and each given a different rest day that rotated through a 5-day cycle. Factories never stopped running. Machines never sat idle. On paper, Soviet economists projected a productivity leap of over 15% by keeping industry in constant motion. But watch what happened to actual human beings. Families were split across different rest day groups. A husband might get his day off on a yellow day, while his wife rested on a purple day. Friends stopped seeing friends. Religious communities lost their shared day of worship entirely. Coordinated rest, the very thing that makes a week functional, disappeared. Historical records from the era describe widespread confusion, plummeting morale, and social isolation spreading through Soviet cities. By 1931, weary of the chaos, the government adjusted it into a 6-day week instead. And by 1940, the whole experiment was abandoned. The Soviet Union quietly returned to the 7-day week the rest of the world had never left. So here's the pattern. 2 of history's boldest governments, separated by over a century, both tried to break the 7-day week. Both times, it snapped back. Why does 7 keep winning? This is where the science gets interesting. Chronobiologist Till Roenberg, who has spent decades studying human sleep and circadian rhythms, has shown that our bodies run on internal clocks, shaped by roughly 24-hour light and dark cycles. But layered on top of that daily clock is something researchers call a social jet lag pattern, a rhythm of accumulating fatigue across consecutive workdays followed by recovery on days off. Studies tracking sleep debt across the standard workweek show that most people build up a noticeable sleep deficit by the 4th or 5th consecutive working day. Push that number to 8 or 9 days in a row, the way the French decade did, and that deficit compounds. You're not just tired, you're accumulating fatigue faster than your body can recover from it. So what would actually happen if we lived inside a 10-day week today? Picture the early stretch. Days 1 through 6 would probably feel almost normal, maybe even a little exciting. Extra structure, extra productivity, an economy humming along with fewer interruptions. But by day 7, in a week with no rest day yet in sight, something would start to shift. Concentration would slip. Minor irritability would creep in. Workplace researchers who study fatigue curves describe this exact tipping point, where sustained output without recovery starts costing more than it gains. And by day 9, the human system would essentially be running on a deficit no espresso shot could fix. Then, finally, a rest day. Maybe 2, if the new calendar is generous. But here's the catch. Nobody in 1793 or 1929 fully accounted for. A single day of rest doesn't erase 9 days of accumulated fatigue. Recovery isn't instant, it's gradual, which means cycle after cycle. Workers in a 10-day week would likely enter each new stretch already running a deficit from the one before. Not collapse, not catastrophe, just a slow, compounding tax on energy, mood, and focus, paid every single cycle, for as long as the calendar stayed in place. Now stack the social layer on top of the biological one. Remember the Soviet color-coded rest days? If a modern 10-day week staggered days off to keep businesses running non-stop, families and friend groups would face the exact same fracture Soviet citizens did a century ago. Weekend plans, family dinners, religious gatherings, youth sports leagues, all of it depends on shared time off. Break that shared rhythm, and you don't just change a calendar. You quietly dismantle the social glue that a synchronized week provides. Here's the twist most people never expect. A 10-day week isn't actually harder because 10 is a bigger number. It's harder because it breaks synchronization, both inside your own body and across the people around you. 7 isn't magic, but it happens to sit close to a sweet spot chronobiologists have found in modern research, one that gives most people enough consecutive workdays to build momentum, without pushing fatigue past the point where a single rest day can't repair it. Which brings us back to the beginning. What if your week had 10 days instead of 7? History already ran that experiment for you. Twice, on entire nations, with real people and real consequences. Both times, the number 7 won, not because ancient Babylonian astronomers were right about the stars, but because something close to it turned out to match the rhythm of human recovery itself. So next time Friday hits and that end-of-week relief washes over you, remember, that feeling isn't random. It's not tradition for tradition's sake. It's the echo of a number that outlasted a revolution and an empire, because when nations tried to outsmart it, human biology quietly voted 7 back into place. 10 days sounded efficient. 7 days is what actually works. And maybe that's the real answer, that the week you live inside every single day isn't just a habit. It's one of the oldest surviving experiments in human history, and so far, nothing else has beaten it.